If you have suffered from third or fourth degree perineal tears, what are also called obstetric anal sphincter injuries arising from childbirth, you may not be aware that many such injuries arise from legally actionable failures or errors in your care. Hello, I'm Cian O'Carroll, and our firm of solicitors here specialises exclusively in medical negligence law. Over the years, we have successfully brought legal actions on behalf of many mothers who have suffered such injuries. The symptoms tend to be lifelong and life-changing. Those symptoms include loss of bowel control or wind control, often, if you're quite considerable perineal pain, loss of intimacy, and interruption to the normal activities of daily life, including one's work. The injuries themselves arise in the course of childbirth, and sometimes, if that delivery is not managed appropriately, excessive pressure can come on the perineum, causing such a tear. The tear itself damages the muscle structure around the anus, what is called the anal sphincter, and that's made up of an external muscle and an internal muscle. Those injuries are then graded, where a third degree tear is either a 3A, B or C, depending on the degree of the injury as the tear progresses through those muscles. A fourth degree tear goes beyond the anal sphincter muscles and into the anus, and each of these 4 grades of injury will cause very significant trauma, requiring surgical repair. If that surgical repair is not conducted correctly, and this will particularly arise if the true degree of the tear has not been established through a careful examination of the mother following the birth, then that woman is quite likely to suffer ongoing significant symptoms as a result of an incompletely repaired perineal tear. One feature of the cases that we have brought to date has been that many of them are commenced after 2 years following the birth of the child. Now, typically, people understand that you have 2 years from the date of an event within which to bring legal proceedings. The truth is more complicated and nuanced than that. In many cases of obstetric anal sphincter injury, the mother will not have been told that anything untoward happened, either in the management of the delivery or the identification of the extent of the tear and therefore the extent of the repair itself. And where that information hasn't been given to the person, and they only learn about it at some significant remove from the event, the law does consider whether it is fair to impose a 2-year time limit on them within which to institute legal proceedings. So that needs to be considered by an experienced solicitor in this area of practice to determine whether a case can be commenced at a later time. But it certainly has been our experience that many such cases are commenced at a later time. Ultimately, because of the nature of these injuries and the fact that they tend to impact on every aspect of a person's life, the damages in these cases are quite significant. Very commonly, the woman will find it difficult to get back to work outside the home. Work within the home may be extremely challenging. Ordinary activities of daily living are greatly curtailed. Social life, activities of health and fitness, all of these things are compromised by what is very commonly the associated fecal incontinence or flatal incontinence. And then a person's intimate personal life is also affected. For these reasons, these cases tend to be very significant, and it is the solicitor's job to both identify a safe foundation for the case, to be able to prove through expert evidence that there has been an unacceptable failure in care, that unacceptable failure has led to injuries that would not otherwise have arisen, and then to quantify the economic consequences for the person of those injuries. In looking at the many cases that we've successfully worked on over the years, there are certain common features that arise. We certainly see that one of the critical causes is a failure by the obstetrician or indeed the midwifery team to manage the speed of the delivery such that the perineum has enough time to stretch and thereby avoid a tear to the perineum and the anal sphincter muscles. Another critical issue is where an obstetric decision is made not to proceed by way of caesarean section, where one is in fact indicated. And a third major area relates to the use of instruments, whether that is in a vacuum delivery or using forceps, where those should not have been used and instead perhaps delivery should have proceeded by way of caesarean section. And again, you can see how there a perineal tear with very significant consequences for the mother would and indeed should have been avoided. In each of these situations, an independent consultant obstetrician is asked for an opinion, and if it is their expert opinion that this care has fallen below the acceptable standard, such that no other obstetrician would have allowed this to happen, well then there is a legal cause of action.